Hello, and welcome to the next installment of my organ lesson video series. These videos are completely free, and I hope you find them useful. In this video, I'm going to share with you what I believe are the secrets to becoming a proficient musician. This is, in my opinion, the most important video in the series, so do watch the whole video. I've also included chapter links so you can come back to each point later. Now, there are two parts of this video. The first part is about the process of learning. The second part is about musicianship. So let's start with the first part, how to learn the right way. Why this is important is that if you're learning the wrong way, your progress will be much slower. And if you're an adult learner, this is significant because the learning process already takes longer. Now firstly, I need to explain how the brain learns skills. The brain is an amazing organ capable of learning throughout life. You're probably aware that there are things that you do consciously and things you do mostly automatically. If you know how to drive a car, you'll be able to relate. When you first learned how to drive, you had to think through each action, repeating it until it became automatic. You repeated this for many hours with supervision to be safely exposed to a variety of scenarios. Eventually, you could operate the car with minimal active thought, merely needing to think about the action you need, and it would be carried out correctly thanks to your skill. Your brain builds autonomous knowledge the more times you're exposed to a stimulus, and to get broad skills, it needs to be exposed to a range of stimuli. This also applies to learning a musical instrument such as an organ. When starting from the beginning, the goal is to be able to read written music and perform it smoothly with minimal effort. To get to that point requires practice, yes, but the right kind of practice. There are two components to this basic skill, reading and playing. Let's talk about reading first. For most people who have learned to read early in life, reading throughout life is easy, requiring little to no active thought. They simply scan the letters and they comprehend words. And in fact, the letters within the words can be jumbled or misspelled, and the process still works. What's happening here is that the reading process isn't reading individual letters, but rather patterns of letters. Now for music, a lot of people are at a disadvantage. They only receive musical instruction a bit later in life. The written form of music isn't a language used all day every day, and most people playing music only read a small quantity of it. And there's the problem. The brain just isn't getting enough variety and quantity of regular use of the notation to improve quickly. The second component of the skill is playing. If you've ever played almost any other non-keyboard instrument such as flute or trumpet, you'll know that there's generally one hand position. You don't need to find which keys to press. But on a keyboard, there are many keys which require accurate positioning of the fingers or feet before striking for the correct note to sound. I believe that reading music is the harder problem. If you've ever played a keyboard before, you may have practiced a piece over and over until it's as if your fingers have developed a muscle memory. And at that point, you can play accurately and effortlessly, barely looking at the music or not even needing it. So if you know you are capable of playing effortlessly, why then is your playing of unfamiliar music so laboured? It's because you haven't yet developed the skill needed to read and perform effortlessly. So what to do about that? Just like learning how to drive a car, you need to be exposed to a variety of notes that your brain can extrapolate into skills. Given enough time, I believe this should work for anyone. So how do you do this? There are a few aspects to consider. The first one is easy, sight reading. If you're unfamiliar with this term, this is when you attempt to play a piece when you're only seeing it for the first time. If you don't play a piece very often, then the next time can also feel a little bit like the first time, although you'll know how it goes, so it won't quite be the same as the actual first time. Most people dread this because this is when they play worst, but don't worry, it gets better. The main difficulty with sight reading is the ability to process the notes fast enough. There are two parts to this, reading the notes and planning how to play them. The truth is that there are probably very few people who can do this in real time for complex music, reading each note individually. This is why people practice, so they learn the notes of the piece and therefore they aren't reading the individual notes, they're just being reminded of the pattern. However, what I'm describing is the next level up. I mean, do this if you must for a performance, but what you should instead be learning is to see written music as patterns. Just like you see words as a single unit, you too can see chords and series of notes as single elements. But even with this simplification, your brain needs time to process the information. This is where reading ahead comes in. You should read at least the next beat ahead. That is to say, don't read the notes as you play them. You'll no doubt be unable to play in time. For example, if the beat's in crotchets and you see two quavers one after the other, treat this as one thing in your mind. This is called chunking, and it's exactly the same principle as briefly remembering phone numbers. You know, if your working memory can hold only 7 things, you can fit more in if the things are bigger, such as triple-digit numbers. If you look more closely at how commercially typeset music is typically laid out, you'll notice that the notes that form easy patterns that align with the beat are generally grouped together. This will help you to see the contents of the next beat ahead. As you realize you can chunk more things together, you'll be able to read further ahead, as each thing is just a pattern. To get started, just play simple music slowly. Your brain will probably get bored waiting for each beat and look ahead anyway. For me, I glance ahead then back to what I'm currently playing. This gives my brain a second to figure out what to do, and when the next beat comes, I just know what to do, as if I've played it before. This brings me to the next aspect, exposure. You're going to need to sight read a lot of music, which presents the problem of where to find it. Unless you happen to have access to a music library, a simple solution is to download copyright-free music from the International Music School Library Project. I'll put a link in the description and on the screen. I would suggest using a large screen tablet so you don't need to print it out. Remember, you should play the music infrequently, so it forces you to learn to read efficiently. Also, don't play the same kind of music. It's tempting to just work your way through a hymnal, but you need to play other things as well to get variety. Be sure to play in different key signatures. For many people, accidentals are exceptions and are accidents waiting to happen. When you're familiar with a key signature, you need to think in terms of the notes being permanently different, and you're just playing as if there are no exceptional notes. Let's come back to playing. As I said, the keyboard is more difficult than other instruments because your hands and feet need to reposition. The obvious solution is to look at what you're doing. Now, unless you're someone who can read an entire line of music in a glance, allowing you to continually observe your hand and foot position, glancing up and down is time-consuming and requires you to ensure you don't lose your place in the music, which can happen if the music is a featureless landscape. If you're going to do this, try moving just your eyes, as they can move faster. But I'd suggest you learn how to play without looking, at least during practice. The method of doing this is the same for hands and feet. Play your scales, but don't just go through the motions. Besides building the skill of playing notes in a sequence for any key signature, the scale is a great opportunity to test that you can see in your mind's eye where the keys are. And not just that, but the corners of the keys. For the manuals, you are trying to strike the center of each key. As you play, you should be constantly aware of where the raised notes are. This isn't a problem when you're playing them, but for natural notes, bring your fingertips close to them so you can sense them in passing. Likewise for the pedals. Feel for the gaps between the clusters of raised notes initially. This is your gauge point. Then try to know at all times where the keys are. Don't guess. If you know where the keys are, you'll play more confidently. Importantly, you need to ensure that you're playing music appropriate to your level of proficiency. Don't play music that's too complex initially. Even if played too slowly, you'll be missing out on quick results with simpler music. If the music starts to feel easier, then you'll need more complex music. You should always feel that you're practicing at the upper edge of your skill. You should also occasionally go back and play simpler music as a double check on your progress. It should feel easy now. Now you're probably wondering how much time is required to do all of this. You've probably heard the saying that it takes 10,000 hours to master a skill. I'm not sure how true that is, but everyone learns at different rates, and musical skills are multifaceted and learned in stages. So I can't say how long it will take you personally, but I'm fairly confident about two things. Firstly, practicing longer won't necessarily give you better results. In fact, practicing longer than an hour per session may yield diminishing returns because your brain needs time to consolidate your practice. Thus, spaced repetition will likely yield the best results, which means you don't have to commit to practicing every day, just frequently enough that you're not going backwards. Secondly, it's important that you're not just going through the motions when you're practicing. Don't just struggle through your scales or a piece of music just waiting for it to be over. Or conversely, don't practice something far below your skill level, as the time could be better spent on strengthening weaker skills. What you need to be doing is continually chasing the feeling of effortlessness for music you find challenging. Some people call this being in the zone, or in a flow state. It's about letting go and allowing your skill to develop and take the reins. The bottom line of learning these skills is that you'll play better and with less effort. And if you get nervous when performing, you don't need to worry because you have a solid technique to back you up, rather than relying on your muscle memory for individual pieces. Just stick to the process, read the music as patterns, reading at least a beat ahead, and know where the keys are. There's another benefit as well. Because you have a solid technique, you can spend less time learning pieces and more time performing or doing other things. This is a more efficient use of time, and if you're a professional, more time for earning a living. That's the end of the first part. The next part is about musicianship. I'd like to first talk about metronomes. You know, the things that go tick, tick, tick at a set tempo. These are fine for when you're learning. They'll help you to develop your own sense of timing internally and help you to play your scales and early pieces evenly, which is important for the drill of reading ahead and playing smoothly and effortlessly. But once you're playing, besides checking the initial tempo, you should get used to playing without one. This leads into my next point. Good music should tell an emotional story. Music often consists of layers of contrasts. Beyond just notes rising and falling in pitch, tempo and volume are phrases that work together. Some ask questions and others answer them. These phrases are usually indicated in the music by arching lines spanning several bars. It's important to identify those and bring these out through the use of dynamics and tempo. It's quite common to have your right foot almost permanently on the swell pedal, leaving your left foot to shuffle around the low end of the pedal board. So too is it important to think about the tonal texture or registration of pipes. This helps to convey the mood. There will also be times in the music where it needs to take a breath or pause to reflect on the journey and the significance of the moment. This is usually noted in the music by comma, caesura or fermata, and you should always observe these moments. This is especially true when you've arrived at the final chord of a piece, with all the stops out and you just want to bask in the reverberation. The music needs it and you'll enjoy it too. Altogether, this requires more effort than just playing the notes, but it will quickly feel more natural, you'll be a better organist for it, and your audience will enjoy your music more deeply. And that's all for this lesson. If you found this useful, please leave a like. And if you enjoy watching my videos, be sure to subscribe. Happy playing, and I'll see you in the next one.